But let's get back to the United States now. Let's speak to a man who knows Joe Biden very well, former White House correspondent and close friend of Joe Biden, Jon-Christopher Bua. JCB, good to see you again. Your reaction to this news? Your friend, Joe Biden, has exited the race for the White House in November.
It's great to be with you, Mark, but just understand something. There's nothing formal about my working at the White House. I am there practically every day. I still have my hard pass, and I get to see Joe Biden in person. Unlike your guests, who are amazingly trashing this man as if he's an old, doddering fool, he is a terrific president. He did the right thing, and as President Kennedy said, he passed the torch to a new generation of Americans born in this century. And Joe Biden did the honorable thing, is a noble man, and what's really scary, last guest, he's terrified of the power, and especially Gorka, he's terrified of Kamala Harris because they know she's a very, very successful attorney general of the largest state in the United States with a great record. And she's a firebrand, she's ready to go, and she's not a fool, as much as you like to make her out to be one. She's very bright, very intelligent, and she's got the women behind her, and she's got women of color and people who are young, a younger generation. Joe Biden knew this, and she will probably be the next nominee for president of the United States, which is the convention in August, in fact, on the 19th.
Well, this country has a recent history of left-wing lawyers getting the top job in Sir Keir Starmer. Perhaps Kamala Harris will achieve the same thing in November if she gets to be on the ticket. But if Joe Biden is not well enough to run in November, why is he well enough to be president today?
That's preposterous. He's well enough. I'll send you every medical report, one that came out two hours ago. You people, and I adore you, you know, I consider you a friend, but your talking point coming from the Trump campaign, we're talking about, I know Donald Trump for 60 years. He's never been well. He's never made an honest statement in his life. He sues people. He goes after people. He's a convicted rapist. He's been convicted of many, many felonies, and he does not deserve to be president of the United States, although his disciples who worship him, deify him, have drunk the Kool-Aid, and I'm afraid your previous guest has had a little bit of that Kool-Aid himself.
Jon-Christopher Bua, I'm thinking of sending you a television. I don't know whether you saw the TV presidential debate. That was the beginning of the end for your friend Joe Biden, wasn't it?
Of course I did. It was awful. We did not like it. It made me ill. But he came around. He did another speech the next day. He spoke to the NATO folks. He did a piece with the NAACP. He was vital. He was powerful. And I think he will certainly make it until Election Day, until January 20th, 2025, when the next president of the United States, whether it's Kamala Harris or Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer or whomever, all governors, by the way, very, very powerful governors, will be sworn in on the steps of the Capitol, and there will be no January 6th riot that was inspired by Donald Trump.
Jon-Christopher Bua, are you not willing to accept the very noticeable and obvious cognitive decline of Joe Biden that we've seen for, at the very least, the last 12 months and probably the last 4 years?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Look at this footage now. There he is, like a statue at a music concert, with a nasty case of rigor mortis, like a statue.
You know, I don't understand your motivation. I know you're going after this guy.
Look at the footage, JCB. The eyes don't lie.
I'm watching everything.
It's like send Grandpa home early. He needs an early night.
He pulled himself out of the race. What more do you want? He's not leaving the White House. He has plenty to do, and he will continue to do it to finish his term with a very, very strong ending. And I think we should give him that kind of respect as your prime minister has.
Now, Jon-Christopher Bua, I understand your loyalty to Joe Biden. You are a loyal guy, and you're always welcome on this show. But let me ask you about the alternative to Joe Biden. You mentioned Kamala Harris. Will there not be a temptation within the Democratic Party to find a more popular and stronger candidate?
Well, first of all, whether you like to ridicule her, I know you don't, Mark, but your guests like ridiculing her, trying to make her into a fool. She is very competent and she is very liked. In fact, there are alternatives, and we won't really know till the convention in August. I believe it's in Chicago. That if she is the choice of the delegates, we'll choose her. She needs to get those delegates, and we had a very difficult time. I lived through it. I've been in politics since John F. Kennedy, who I volunteered for as a young lad, and I remember in 1968. We had Lyndon Johnson, who from the Oval Office, and Joe Biden will be in the Oval Office this week, saying, I will not accept and I will not take the nomination of my party. And he decided he wasn't going to run. What happened? It was a very difficult year. You don't remember that. You're too young, but I'm sure you read because you're a smart man. In 1968, my candidate, the one I volunteered for, Robert F. Kennedy, not Jr., the original Bobby Kennedy, he was assassinated. Okay, he was assassinated in Los Angeles. He did not get to Chicago. Lyndon Johnson pulled out, and unfortunately, we had Hubert Humphrey, who was really a Johnson guy. He was for staying in the war. The youth didn't like it, and guess what? Richard Nixon became president of the United States. So it's a very vital time for America and for Great Britain, for all of us to come together with clear eyes and understand what we're up against in this world and how we need to defeat President of the head of Russia, Vladimir Putin, who is basically the best friend of Trump, and they want to get out of Ukraine.
Okay.
And I think this is what's going to happen. We're going to have a strong president if we have Kamala Harris or Newsom or Whitmer, or the list goes on. There are plenty of very, very vital Democrats, and they're all governors, by the way, because they are executives of their state, which is
Jon-Christopher, just a couple of seconds if you can. I'm just online now and I've got the latest polling for Kamala Harris, the vice president, and someone who has in just the last few minutes thrown her hat in the ring for the race to the White House in November. A survey of 1,500 registered voters conducted between July the 13th and 16th of this month by YouGov for The Economist found that 51% disapproved of her performance. She has a current net approval rating of -12. It's not exactly a ringing endorsement, is it?
Well, let's see what happens over the next couple of weeks. And I think polls are a sketch, a momentary shot, and let's see what happens. But I think if she's who this president is supporting, and I believe he is. And I believe that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are supporting her as well, then the Democratic Party will get behind her and you will see a surge of youth. And I think the one who should be terrified today is Donald Trump, because he knows, as we say in gangster movies here in America, the jig is up.
There you go. Well, the jig will never be up for the brilliant White House correspondent, Jon-Christopher Bua. JCB will catch you soon. Always a treat and always an education.